Hey everyone. Welcome to my very first podcast, and welcome to Level Up Your Life. It is a new podcast series that I am conducting, and I want to thank everyone for spending time on this lovely Sunday. It's beautiful outside, um, and for being here with me. What I want to talk about is how I got to doing this podcast. I do love podcasts, and there's an awful lot of podcasts out there. If you subscribe to Spotify or YouTube, you can see that the world is inundated with a lot of different podcasts. You have podcasts for um, running your business, finding your love of your life, um, fitness, all kinds of things. Um, but one thing that I found during this pandemic was we don't necessarily have people talking to us, talking to those of us who have been married and divorced, those of us who've buried our parents or a loved one, who've had one career, maybe four careers, or interested in switching careers, and it's been interesting, this whole pandemic, and I got to realizing that there's nobody talking really to us, those of us who are seasoned, those of us who've been through a lot, and those of us who kind of want to make sense of what happened. How this podcast came about was I had received a lot of phone calls from some very good friends who were in dark places at the time. And the conversation was different, but the same. And the biggest question was, oh my God, what do we do? We have all been sent home to our rooms to think about things for a year. And that's pretty heavy stuff for a lot of people. But I had to remind people, and I know some of the people that are on this call, I've reminded personally, don't you remember you used to say, hey, I wish this world would just stop. Let me off and give me a breather. Well, it did. And it gave us a year. And it's still giving us time too. So my advice is let's make it count. The other big thing is everyone that I spoke to all felt that they were on their own island, dealing with their own crap, to, to say the least, you know. And it's been a lot. This has been a very tough year. We've had to stop, get off the hamster wheel, and get on a whole different one. We are working from home. We are becoming teachers, caregivers, everything, all on our own because we're not allowed to see each other, or we haven't been for a long time. So this podcast is to remind everybody, hey, you are not on your own island. We are all here as a community, and let's talk. And let's get into the heart of some of the things and some of the questions that we've encountered over our lifetime, over the past year, And one of those things that kept creeping up, one of those big questions that kept creeping up that I had was how we treat ourselves. We have been, this is a first of a 4-part series on breaking the conditioning. And you ask, what conditioning? What are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about the subtle conditioning that we've had since we were children that have created the mindset that we're in. And it's not really a great mindset, to be quite honest. I am the very first person who will tell you that I could beat myself up better than a prize fighter before 6:45 in the morning. I can definitely, I'm in the shower and it starts. Oh my God, you're still not married. Oh my God, you're still living in an apartment. Oh my God, you're still at this stage of your career. You're not the weight that you want. You're not doing the things that you want. And it spirals down the drain faster than the water. And by the time I get out of the shower, I'm like exhausted. I'm exhausted. It's 7 o'clock in the morning and I'm exhausted. I haven't started my day. So that's what I want to talk about is one day I just had enough and physically and literally in the shower just said, enough. I've got things I got to do. I've got people I want to see. I've got a whole laundry list of things I got to check off in life. And I'm wasting all of my energy beating myself up. And it got me thinking because I started talking to a lot of people. I'm not the only one. The self-confidence and self-worth are two huge issues in every industry, in every age group, in every person. But how did we get here that we would treat ourselves worse than we treat our best friend? And you think about that. I actually was listening to a lady who said, I started writing to myself in the third party. And that's how I broke out of that. And it got me thinking, what does she mean writing in the third party? Well, we really talk down to ourselves. You're a failure. You can't do that. What makes you think you can do that? What makes you think you can do a podcast? What makes you think people will listen? Why would you do that at this age? You know, there's a laundry list of things that we cut ourselves down. But when was the last time we said, hey, I'm going to try anyway, and it's going to be great. And even if it isn't great, I got to try. And when's the last time we said, you know what, you look great, meaning you. So I actually went to work one day, and I'm not going to say who this is, but I had a conversation with a certain someone, and I said, I am done with the negativity. I'm done with the negativity, done thinking about negative thoughts. I'm done talking about negative things. And this person, as wonderful as he is, said, oh, really? Well, I'm going to put a little note in my file for 6 months, and we're going to see how well that works. Well, 6 months came, and it made big difference. Getting rid of those negative thoughts, talking down to myself. It created a void because those thoughts weren't there, but new thoughts weren't coming in. But it also gave me a sense of relief because I was no longer bogged down with those thoughts. So when I got to thinking about it after 6 months, I started incorporating positive thoughts on myself. Hey, you can do this. Hey, look what you've been through. And honestly, if we all took a moment to turn around and look where we were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and just take stock of where we were at that point in time, we'd be like, wow, I thought it was the end of the world back then. And look, I'm still here and things are great and they could be better. How do we make them better? You know? So I started adding positive thoughts into my narrative, my internal narrative. And things got better. Things got a lot better. But during this pandemic is when they got wonderful. And it was because I was taking those positive thoughts and I decided to give them to other people. And it's through serving others that makes us feel joy. It really does. You could have all the self-confidence that you need, but to give it away, to give away a compliment, to give away support, to give away a hug, you know, those things are precious and they are what makes us a community. And they are what makes, those are the ties that bind. And so as I was having these conversations and I was giving of myself to others over this pandemic, I realized I have a voice and I have something to say. Now, most people who know me know I have a lot to say most of the time, but I think this is very beneficial to all of us. So the conditioning that I started to speak of, this 4-part series, it talks about, and we'll get into it a little bit more in the next podcast, but what it talks about is we've been trained a certain way that doesn't make us happy. Happiness is the enemy. Like How dare you be happy? Everybody else is suffering. How dare you? What do you mean you can change careers? What do you mean you can uh, reinvent yourself? Uh, and it's these narratives that have been passed down from generation to generation, um, that have really stuck inside of us, and built us to be who we are and given us the anxiety that we have. Not to mention the social media, the regular media, uh, and the family dynamics. We it casts a long shadow. Family dynamics. Um, I'm currently counseling several people who are dealing with family who are quite negative, and they don't mean to be. The people who love us the most and are closest to us the most tend to hurt us the easiest and tend to hurt us the most. And those cuts go deep. And it's not even because they're trying to hurt us, it's because they don't like change. And when you want to change, and you want to change your mindset, and you want to change your health, and you want to change your career, and you want to change anything, any part in your life, it's always met with resistance. How do we overcome that resistance is the most important thing. How do we drown out the noise? It's easier said than done. And I have a couple of fundamental ways that we can try. Um, the very first exercise that I like to give to people is we have to tackle your internal voice before we can tackle everybody else's voice. So we have to start from the beginning. And the beginning is how you look at yourself, and what you're saying to yourself. Honestly, would you say the things that you say now to yourself privately, to your best friend, or to your child, or to your colleague? You wouldn't even consider it. So why are you doing it to yourself? It's a really good question that needs answering. And most people will say, well, it's just habit. Well, habits can be broken. Habits can be changed. One of the problems with habits is, just checking my time here. One of the problems with habits is when we think a thought, it's an awful lot like drawing a line in the sand. If you go to the beach and you go towards the sand that's kind of wet, and everybody likes to take a big stick and draw a big heart or draw their name in it, or, at New Year's, some people would be real crazy and write the new year and, God bless, or things like that. Well, if you dig that deep, if you take that stick and you dig deep enough in that sand, it creates quite a groove. And it takes a while for the ocean to wash over that and smooth it out. Well, the same is with our brains. What cognitively, when you are thinking a negative thought, you create a path, and it's a trigger and an action response. When you think a negative thought and you keep thinking that negative thought over and over and over again, that groove in your mind gets really deep, and it's really hard to change. But there's a real simple way to change that, and that is to divert it. Is to understand the moment that you feel like, oh, I am such a failure, or I can't do that. You, as soon as you hear that, make yourself think two good thoughts. Well, I did make it through college. I have been at my job for 15 years. I lost 30 pounds, way back when. Why can't I do it now? And ask yourself questions and change that narrative up. Two good positive thoughts we will, in time, divert from those negative thoughts and give it a new process and a new way of thinking. And it is not overnight. But I can guarantee you, with the work involved, you will lead a very healthy, happier life. Once you get past that internal narrative, once you get past beating yourself up, and then you can work on the people around you. And that takes a little time too, because you're going to have to learn to not drown it out, not give access to people who want to tear you down. It doesn't mean you can't be friends with people. It just means you limit the access you have to them. You only talk to them 10 minutes a week instead of every day for an hour. You change the subject. You talk about them. You keep them off of you until they get to the point that they understand that they cannot get to you in your head, tearing you down. And some of those people are, our family and our friends and our colleagues. And again, they don't mean to be. I think back in the 50s, there was some kind of narrative that you had to think about the worst case scenario first. And when I go to people and I talk to them and say, hey, I want to launch a podcast, the first thing is, well, what makes you think you can do that? And do you think anybody's going to listen to you? And what makes you an authoritative person? And these are things, and then they say, well, everybody has a podcast out there. So there's all this kind of, they think they're trying to help you by showing you that you could fail, showing you that you could fall, not realizing that they're actually pushing you to the edge. And it's up to us to dial that back. And that's where community comes in, and that's where our friends come in. One of the most important lessons I've learned is if you want to succeed at anything, you have to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, who can push you to be a better person, not to do the work for you, not to make you feel like you can't do the work, but people who bring ideas to the table, who bring support to the table, and who are the first person to say, hey, you got this. This is great. I can't wait to see it. Because you'd be surprised how many people are watching you. They want you to succeed. There are a lot of people out there who want you to succeed, because if you succeed, then they can too. And it almost gets faith-based, because the only thing more contagious than faith is the flu. You stand next to somebody who has a lot of faith, and you cannot not feel, that peace and that strength and that, compassion. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. That's what the podcasts are about. They're inclusive. I would really appreciate if people put comments into the chat feature. I won't always be using Zoom for podcasts, but I will today and probably for the next few weeks. I still have to get my technical stuff up to date. It's a trial and error kind of thing, so I appreciate everybody who is taking time to listen to me and help me level up my own life, And where I got level up my own life is I actually wanted to call this the Center of Positive Project. I wanted everyone to find the center of their positivity. We are inundated with negativity from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, unless, of course, we conscientiously have made buffers, turning off the TV, limiting our social media, that sort of thing. So I wanted to serve others and contribute something back that's positive. Give some kind of, outlet, like, okay, yeah, I have to listen to MSNBC because shit's going down. But you know what? I'm going to listen to Mary over at Level Up when I'm done, because, she's got a really great perspective, and not everything is wrong with the world. It's not fire and brimstone. It feels like it, but there's nothing new under the sun. The same things that we're yelling about now, they were yelling about in the Spanish flu. They were yelling about many, many years ago. I have looked and researched a lot of that. And it's absolutely true. There's just nothing new under the sun. And that brings me to another thing. If there's nothing new under the sun, why are you limiting yourself? Why are you not taking that risk? Why are you not following through on your dreams? And it's because of the conditioning. And I'm going to refrain from buzzwords like sheep, government control, the dumbing down of America that happened in the 70s. I'm going to refrain from all of those things because they're just not helpful. What I want to bring to the table is things that are helpful. And I'm always open and available for suggestions and for anyone who wants me to research topics for them, because I'm going to do different series. This is a 4-part series where we're doing our internal talk and how we treat ourselves today, paradigm shifts in the next episode. Love is a Choice is a 3rd episode. And forgive me, I've lost my train of thought. I forget what the last one is, but so I'm going to try and present things in a good fashion that will bring something good and tangible and thought-provoking and critical thinking to the table. I will have guests eventually, not yet, but I am working on it, and I have some cool people who would love to come on. So we're working on that too. So this is going to be a fun adventure. Getting back to the main topic of how we treat ourselves, I would challenge each of you just to take 10 minutes, no longer, just to take 10 minutes and evaluate your thoughts. Am I right? Is Mary right? Do I beat myself up in the morning? Do I say things I wouldn't say to my best friend or to the person that I love the most? Why am I not treating myself like I would treat others? Because you can't be happy for others until you're happy with yourself. A lot of times we hear tons and tons of buzzwords or memes or different things that say you have to love yourself before anybody can love you, but they forget to tell you how the hell to do that. We all know how to go to the negative. We all know how to go to the worst case scenario. We all know how to go to the conniving, manipulative thought pattern. We all know how to get angry, but hey, that's just one side of the spectrum. What about the other side of the spectrum? The other side that says, hey, you're good. You're doing this. Why are you putting yourself down? Let's change up that narrative. Let's change up that narrative between us. So I challenge you for like 10 minutes to take stock in your thought pattern. And if you can, write it down. The things that you say, the top 3 things that you say to yourself the most during the day. It will become really obvious when you put it down on paper where your thoughts lie about yourself. And then I want you to also challenge you to hand out 3 compliments a day. Doesn't have to be the same person. Doesn't have to be anybody you know. Give back. See how you feel. It's giving that I have found during this pandemic that is causing the healing. A lot of bad things have happened during this pandemic. No lie, everybody's seen it. There's an awful lot of good things that have happened, especially to me. And I'm not negating anybody who is going through a hard time. I'm just saying that I have been through those hard times and I'm on the other side. And I'd like to help you get through it too. And one of those ways is to be positive to others. It is no sweat off of your back or anybody else's to say some nice, kind thing to another person, to another human being. You might be the only person who does say something nice to that person today. And when you think about that, you go, maybe I have more power than I think I have. Maybe this kindness thing does work. So I challenge you to do those 2 things. And then for the 3rd challenge, I want to challenge you to, when you have a negative thought, when you write down those 3 negative thoughts that you daily do to yourself, I want you to write down 3 positive things. And every time you think one of those negative thoughts, I want you to reach out. If you need to have a, you know, if you need to have a index card, or put it on your fridge, or put it in your wallet, do it. See how you feel after a couple of days. It's actually a relief. It sounds like, oh, this is just another one of those higher awareness things. She's the tree hugger of the family. But in all honesty, I don't have any drama in my life, and I like it that way. The people that I have in my life are wonderful, beautiful people. They're all different, and they're all great. And most of you are here listening to me, which I think is wonderful. And I'm telling you, it made a difference in my life, and I'd like to make a difference in yours. And that is all the time I have for today. I would love to hear in the chats how you feel about this podcast. Some nice words about me would be nice. But honesty works better. And also what you would like me to talk about on a podcast. Because this is a community, and it's going to be reciprocal. So I have a thing on top of my computer here. You'll have to excuse me for a second. There we go. I will have an Instagram coming out in about a week or so, where I will be doing daily posts, and you can always DM me there. Those of you who have my name and number, please give me a call. And I wish everybody a wonderful week. Hats off to you. Thank you so very much for taking time out on a Sunday. I know Sundays are a little difficult for people because it's family time, but not to interfere with any of my workload or anybody else's workload. I didn't want to do it during the week. So thank you again, and have a wonderful week, and God bless, and enjoy the beginning of summer. Take care.